Ron, are you able to hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, and so sorry about the technical difficulties getting in, everyone. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Feel free to use that chat button to offer suggestions or ideas, to ask questions, and just in general to join in. And as Brian mentioned earlier, remember that question and answer button that you can use. Also, remember that you do have a shot at winning that gift card or one of the many gift cards. And another reminder, remember to share what you're learning or what you are really getting out of the summit today in on Instagram and or Facebook. So, what are we going to do today? We're going to talk a little bit about the research between literacy and social studies. We're going to walk through a third grade lesson, and we're going to, more than anything, answer the question, what is in my program that is going to help my students with literacy? Uh, Along the way, feel free to answer questions and or offer your own experiences. One of the great things about TCI is there's always more to learn, and we're here to learn together. So let's go ahead and get started. This is a 2001 research study, but I have to tell you, the research absolutely still stands up and has actually been reinforced with more recent meta research. So, in this study, the researchers were looking at what really increases literacy skills. As elementary teachers, holy cow, we've got a big job to really help our students read, write, listen, and speak, not to mention comprehend. So, in this study, they were looking at what really reinforces or grows literacy skills. And you can see in this first box an additional 15 minutes a day of ELA uh, practice. They had about a 3% growth. However, there's also a 3% standard deviation. So it could have helped or not, hard to say. On the other hand, when you look at social studies, adding in social studies had a 15% growth, which blows that 3% standard deviation out of the water. Without a doubt, social studies content, social studies practices increase literacy. Why is that? Any thoughts? Ron, feel free to jump in with anything from the chat. What are we thinking increases literacy by doing social studies? Definitely engagement, background knowledge, more reading, connected reading, absolutely. Relationship building, vocab, all of these are right. Absolutely. You guys get it. So basically, doing social studies increases background knowledge, and there is more and more research, that meta research that I mentioned, more and more research showing how important background knowledge is to learning. That's really what learning is taking what we already know and then learning new content and synthesizing it. So doing background knowledge, or doing social studies really builds background knowledge and vocab, everything that all of you mentioned in the chat. Anything else that really stands out as you look at this passage from the study? Yeah, connected reading, reading and writing with a bigger purpose. Exactly. Allows kids to apply ideas. Exactly. You get it. Yeah, all of that. Tier two words. Yep, exactly. So we are going to go ahead and jump in. So right now I am on the home page. If you are new to TCI, When you get into your teacher subscription, this is what it's going to look like. If students have turned in any assignments, you're going to see them right here. I'm going to start out pointing out a few things that are so critical to social studies and TCI, but they're not as obvious. One of the first things, if you look at this purple bar right here, you are going to find everything you need on the purple bar. You're definitely going to see the unit you're on, the lesson you're on, the components that go with it, and we're going to discuss that. But I want to point out this reference library right here. So many great resources. One of my personal favorites is the biographies. You are not going to find these assigned in your normal lessons. This is supplementary, but we have dozens and dozens of wonderful biographies. It used to be that they were just totally standalone. Now, if you go to this little calendar at the bottom, you can actually assign them. And there are a couple of other things that are new and slowly being developed by our team. What else do you notice? If you look at, say, Abigail Adams versus John Adams, what is different? Yeah, there's a video. So not every biography has a video. Many of them do. But you can assign the video or watch it as a class. So many great biographies. And if you choose to, you can assign it. I'm going to put in today's date and I'm going to assign it. And it will actually ask questions. So you can make this more of an oral discussion, or you can assign it and have your students do it as a standalone. I love, love the biographies. There are also some there's a civics library, a maps, primary sources library. What you're going to find is that there are primary sources built into individual lessons. However, for instance, in September, it's Constitution Day. And so if you want to go into the primary sources and find primary sources about the Constitution, you can absolutely do that. I'm going to leave the reference library right now, and I'm going to go back up to the top underneath home to where it says support. Support has some of the golden nuggets that are incorporated into this program. You are going to find standards alignment with your own state. You are going to find lots of wonderful resources on social studies practice, such as mapping toolkits, social studies toolkits, all kinds of great things, citizenship toolkits, scaffolding for learning support with universal access. The one that's really near and dear to my heart under support is the reading and writing support. So if you go down, you're going to see that there are resources for reading, writing, speaking and listening, and vocab. And you can go into these. I'm going to go to the 3 through 5 in English for vocab and notice that it has pages and pages and pages of suggestions for deeply teaching vocab. Lots of suggestions on word tiers or affixes and morphology, helping kids really get to know words, playing games with them just to have kids incorporate the words into sentences, lots and lots of suggestions. And then some really great graphic organizers. These transcend social studies. You can use these in any content area. They are so well developed and so helpful. I'm going to show you one more under support, and that is the speaking and listening. I can remember being so frustrated when I would have my kids do a presentation and then I just wasn't happy with the quality. And I realized, well, it's because I hadn't specifically taught them how to speak in front of people. And so, again, pages and pages of suggestions and ideas. And then notice this. This is under the speaking and listening. There is an actual listening checklist. How can you be a good listener? What can you do? You can explicitly teach and set expectations for being an active listener and for speaking in front of a group. So many of our lessons at all grade levels incorporate working together in a group or speaking in front of each other. And you can use the speaking checklist to really help kids become better speakers. So I found that under support. Now I want to go into a unit. So I'm going to go to the unit overview. And we're looking at Unit 3 in the third grade program, Our Community and Beyond. And this is the economics unit. So when you look at the units, you have all kinds of options. You can do the inquiry projects, and there are also social studies stories. So elementary, everything's on you. You're teaching everything. There's not enough time in the day. You may not choose to do an inquiry project with every unit. If at all possible, if every teacher at every grade level can do one inquiry project a year and guide kids through it, by the time they get to fourth and fifth grade and then middle school, the idea of inquiry won't be nearly as big and scary. Okay, so here's the inquiry. Notice that all of the unit openers come with little videos to get them started. The social studies stories, these are again supplemental. If you want to bring in more literacy, if you want to bring in more informational text, this is absolutely how you can do it. I also want to point out that if you are doing any of the unit pieces, such as the social studies stories, you will find the materials next to them, not where the rest of the materials are for the lessons. So keep that in mind. The materials are next to them. You can assign them, you can do them together, you can do whatever you want with the units. We are now going to go down into lesson number 10. It's one of my favorites in third grade, Choices in a Free Market. And we're going to click on Explore Lesson. All right. So one of the first things I want to point out, when you are looking at the classroom activity slideshow, which is where you want to go to teach, you can make a copy of it and you can edit it. So know that you have all kinds of flexibility with how you teach this lesson. Before we get into the actual lesson, though, I want to show you something else. We know that the textbook is built right into the classroom activity slideshow. So when you are teaching, it's going to show you the section of the textbook that you want to address. But if you want to go to the textbook by itself, you can do that on the left in the purple bar or with this tab right here with reading. If you want to assign the reading, you're going to do that through the purple bar reading or the tab reading. And so right up here at the top where you see the calendar, that's where you would assign it. It also, if you go into the textbook by itself through the purple bar or the tab, that is where you can download it into Drive. Just know that. All right. We are going to go back up into the lesson overview. I'm going to my purple bar. The purple bar makes it very, very user-friendly. And I want to point out that the overview is going to tell you not only the essential question, in this case, why do prices change in our economy, but also the objectives, both for language arts and social studies. It's going to break down the lesson and give you an idea of what each phase of the lesson is about. Next to that, you're going to find materials, or you can reach them in the purple bar. In the materials, when you see activity cards, this is where you find them before you teach the lesson so you can print them out. You will want to print them out I like to work smarter, not harder. So I would print them out and maybe even laminate them so that I don't have to do that every year. And then my system is I like to use Ziploc bags. So I would put lesson 10 and put the activity cards in there um, so that I can reuse them from year to year. You're also going to find the handout access points for differentiation. This is really just both the vocabulary and the main ideas, the main content from the lesson. It's a review, so it's great formative assessment or review. I've also seen a lot of districts where the special ed teachers use the access points for differentiation so that they can really highlight and support a student's learning. Some of the materials you're not going to need, or maybe you will, for instance, the Spanish version, but you're going to get to those through materials. I'm also going to show you the procedures. This will often show you, it goes more into depth into the different steps or phases of the lesson. Often it will also show you, here's what you can do if you're crammed for time and you want to shorten the lesson a little bit. Next to that, one of my favorite tabs, differentiating instruction. This is going to show you specifically for this lesson what you can do to meet the needs of your English learners, your special education students, your struggling students, and your advanced learners. So what can you do to provide a little extra challenge for those kids who need it? And then finally, enhancing learning. I try to check this every time I go to plan a lesson because TCI is always adding to it as teachers across the country reach out with, hey, this trade book went really well with this lesson, or hey, I found this website that really supports the content in this lesson. So if there are trade books and I have them in my library, I throw those into that Ziploc bag. Otherwise, I just check for what resources are going to help the students that I have in front of me learn this content. So those are some of the planning pieces. Next, let's go into the classroom activity slideshow. All right. The first slide, again, breaks down the lesson into the different phases. These times are approximate. It's really going to depend on how you teach, what you supplement, how much time you spend on it, but it does give you a basic idea so that you can plan for on Monday. I've got 20 minutes, so I'm going to get through the preview and I'm going to deeply teach some of the vocabulary. On Tuesday, we have a field trip, but on Wednesday, I'm definitely going to do the first round. And Thursday, I have a good chunk of time. So I'm going to try to get through the second round and the show what you know. The time approximations can just help you with your own planning. I do want to take just a moment to point out a really critical part of the TCI approach. The preview activity is designed to tap into students' prior knowledge. Or I have students who really run the gamut from severe poverty to wealth. I have students who have traveled. I have students who have never been outside of their town. And what I have found is that often that preview activity, rather than tapping into students' background knowledge, it actually gives them kind of a personal hook to hang the new content on. So you might modify it a bit, but you don't want to skip the preview because it's a really important part of providing that background knowledge and helping students build on it. You don't want to skip it. The vocabulary, this part of the slideshow is not going to deeply teach. You're going to use that resource in the support tab to deeply teach vocabulary, but it will review. Notice that it says 10 minutes. It's not deeply teaching. It's just reinforcing and reviewing the vocab. And then the hands-on activity. At the end of every lesson, you're going to find a show you what you know. show what you know, or sometimes it's called a processing activity. And the show what you know or the processing activity, it's kind of a performance assessment. It's giving the kids a chance to take what they have learned and apply it. I can often find more about what my kids have learned from that processing or show what you know than from the actual quiz. So again, it's giving the kids the chance to get to those higher order thinking skills of application and synthesis. You might modify it, you might kind of make it your own, but you don't want to skip the processing. That's a little bit about the lesson cycle. And let's go ahead and jump in. So here's that preview activity. And notice that it's tapping into students' experience with buying things. Um, who's doing the selling? And it will show you the answers if you should need it. Who's doing the buying? What kind of prices would the buyer like to pay? What do you think the seller might do if her price to her prices if lots of people want to buy her fruit? Why do you think so? So I am going to tell you this, most of the time, the preview activity, regardless of the grade level, I will often just make this an oral discussion. Usually, I don't have students do typing or writing for this. I want to hear what they're thinking. I want to hear what their background knowledge is. I want their classmates to hear their thinking and hear about their experiences because it's all part of building that background knowledge that they're going to use to learn the content of the lesson. So this lesson is a perfect example of that. What a rich, wonderful discussion you can have about the experience of being at a market. Like I said, the textbook will actually be built into the slideshow. And here is a perfect example. Here's the introduction. So you click on it. Notice that it doesn't have the little tab to download it into Drive, but it does have all those other great features. So you can let your students self-select, or you can select for them the grade level text. Level B will be about 20% lower Lexile. And this is a newer feature from within the last year. You can actually adjust it even more than that. If you have students who are struggling, you can take it down to the grade 2 or 3 if you want to. Students can have it read out loud to themselves.
Introduction. Think about the things you have at home. You might have clothes and a dresser.
Uh, the middle tab, that is if you have students who speak a language other than English. If you highlight, notice that it then opens up and you can pick the language. Let me try that one more time. So if you have a brand new student, let's say they're Cantonese, and most of the languages you can also have. TCI has actually embedded Google Translate into the textbooks. I love that feature. I also love the main ideas section, and I've used this a lot of different ways. Um, we are all working on helping our students recognize the main ideas and supporting details. Even though they start that at kindergarten and first grade, man, we are still working on it right through fourth, fifth grade into middle school and frankly, even high school. So sometimes I will bring up the text, we'll read it together, kind of process it, and then I'll say to the students, what do you think are the main ideas? And whatever they are, you can highlight. And then if you click that little button at the top, there are the main ideas. They show up in blue. So it's a great way to practice that main ideas and supporting details. Another way that I like to use this button is that some sections you're going to want to take the time and have students read them or read them together, process them, discuss them. Students are going to use them to answer questions. But sometimes They just need the meat of the content, the main ideas. So as I am planning, I'm thinking about that. And sometimes I might click on that button and just say, here's what this section is about. People buy things with money. People can choose what to buy with the money they earn. Boom. Those are the main ideas. So those are some of the ways to use those tools at the top. Any other way that you have found that you use them that has worked for you? I'd love to hear your suggestions.
Everyone is loving these features, Julie. Just
Are you?
absolutely loving them. The chat is filled with compliments.
Yeah, and they just keep getting better. It's one of the things, frankly, that drew me to TCI initially, well over 20 years ago, was just how good the literacy is. And it goes hand in hand with the social studies content. I am a social studies nerd. I'm also a literacy nerd, and they just go so well together. Okay, so going back to the lesson, remember, we're still in the preview. So after giving that example in the market, now we're going to have a quick discussion about what goods or services we have bought as a family. When's the last time you went to the store with your parents? Maybe I'm going to share an example. And you have total flexibility. If you want your students to do it virtually or do it on paper. Sometimes, though, sometimes like I said, just make it more of a discussion. The questions are right there to guide the teacher. All right, we're going to keep going through this lesson. So that was the preview. Here is the vocabulary. I forgot to mention, I'm going to preview the vocabulary as when I'm planning, and I'm going to make sure that in our discussions, I bring up demand, incentive, profit. I had an incentive to find the perfect shirt because it was really important to me, and I was willing to pay a little more to get exactly what I knew my husband would want. When did you have an incentive? Oh, you wanted this yo-yo because it was the latest, greatest thing. And frankly, you were willing to spend all of your allowance on it. So I just take that opportunity. If it's vocab that we really want the kids to know, I want them to use it in discussions. I want them to hear it. I want to hear them say it. Sometimes I'll put it on the board or on an anchor chart. Okay, guys, extra dojo points for anybody who uses incentive in a sentence appropriately today. So, uh, again, this doesn't deeply teach the vocabulary, it's reviewing it, but there are so many ways to deeply teach the important vocab. Okay, so there's the vocab. Now we are ready for the hands-on activity. And in this case, it's a game. I have taught this lesson myself. My students absolutely loved it. They got so hyped up as the buyer or the seller trying to make money or trying to get the best deal they could with their money. It was so much fun. So it's going to walk you through exactly what you're going to do. We're going to start out reading sections 1 and 2. We're going to go back to the preview. I love this. Go back to the preview and add to our thinking. After doing that reading in sections 1 and 2, what have we learned that is new about being a buyer or a seller? And then we're going to get ready to play the game. So here are sections 1 and 2. I chose this lesson partly because of this feature. Notice that in this particular lesson, here is section 1, but we're reading 2 sections. You don't have to close it out and go back into the textbook. It's going to give you section 1, and here is section 2. Because TCI is suggesting you read both of these sections, they have grouped them together on a slide. So you don't have to go hunting for them. They are both right there. So we're going to read sections 1 and 2. We're going to go back and talk about our discussion from the preview and add to it. Why do people need to earn money? And if you need it, here are the little signs that will give you the answers. What are some ways that adults can earn money? Why do sellers want to make a profit? And then after we go back. Now we're going to start the game. And so notice as the teacher, it's going to set up and show you. You're not going into this blind. You're going to have the students set up fruit stands. There are only a couple of lessons you need to do something like this for, but in this case, you're going to move desks or have separate tables and set up actual fruit stands. And then the bot for the sellers and the buyers, they have the handout money that you printed out, and their job is to go and buy the fruit. And it's going to lay out all the directions. So here are the handouts right here and the directions. Each seller is going to get 8 pieces of fruit to sell. Your goal is to make as much money as possible. If you are a buyer, you're going to get $4, and your goal is to get as much as you can for those $4. Sellers are going to be competing, so sellers can make a deal or put things on sale, whatever strategies you think might work to help you get more money. And the buyers are going to be competing. So, as a buyer, if you want to offer extra money for those apples, you can do that. The kids are going to be partners and they're going to discuss what's our strategy? What are we going to do to either try to get more bang for our buck, literally, or to try to get as many apples as we can with our money. So here's round one. You're going to do this. I would put a time limit on it, maybe 10 minutes. And then when you end, you're going to debrief. Sellers, how much money did you make? What strategies did you use? What might you do differently next time? Why? Hey, buyers, how many pieces of fruit did you get? What strategies worked? What do you think you might do next time? And then going back to that essential question, what happened to the price of fruit as the activity went on? There was lots of fruit. The prices probably went down. Why do you think that happened? Because when supply is high and demand is low, prices go down. Okay, this is another thing that I absolutely love about TCI. Kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade. Not as much in fourth and fifth, but those earlier grades, you are going to have music incorporated into not all of your lessons, but some of them. This is an example of it. What I love about music is it transcends the limbic system in your brain and goes right into long-term memory. You know how you might not remember what you walked into a room for, but if someone were to start playing a song that you loved in middle school, you know absolutely every word. This is why. Music, it goes right into our long-term memory. And so this is helping kids understand supply and demand through music.
Supply and demand go hand in hand. They always change. I can understand when supply is high and demand is low. The price will go down, down it goes. Down, down it goes.
We won't play the whole song, but you get the idea. Very catchy. I'm really sorry if you find yourself singing it to yourself on the way home. But that also means that the kids are going to remember it. They love it. And now, after that debrief, we're going to answer the questions in the student journal. And then maybe the next day, you do the next version. So it's going to walk you through exactly what to do. But kids are going to change places. So if they were the seller, this time they're going to be the buyer, etc. And this time, notice that they're changing the rules a little bit. The sellers only have 4 pieces of fruit, and the buyers have $8 to spend. This is opposite of what happened last time. And so basically, supply is going to be lower, demand is going to be higher. The kids are actually experiencing why this happens. And so what ends up happening is they remember this. This is episodic memory right here. playing this game, remembering how frustrated they were that there weren't as many apples available and they couldn't get as much with their money, they ended up paying more for it. Here's the same song, but again, this time it's the verse about the demand being high and the supply being low. And we're going to debrief so kids can understand why this happened. And now we're ready for the show what you know. What happens when supply or demand changes? So they're going to read about changes in supply and demand. And then it's going to give different situations. So the kids are going to think about what happened here. Did supply change or did demand change? What's going to happen to the price? Farmers in California had wonderful weather. They have produced the largest crop of watermelons in years. What's going to happen to the price of watermelons? Remember, this is a chance for the kids to take what they have learned and apply it. And in this case, they are applying it to real world situations. I absolutely love that. So it's going to give a few different circumstances, what will happen to the prices, and then kind of debrief. And then the show what you know is they are going to take what they have learned and apply it. There is an option in third grade to go on to the study your community. So you could look at actual services or products that are produced in your area and talk about how that supply and demand affects it. If you're in the Midwest or the East Coast and you have a service of shoveling snow, what happens when the big business that did it went out of business? All of a sudden, there's not as much supply for that service, and so the people can charge more. So giving different examples like that. All right. I am wanting to know, we have just a couple of minutes left. I'm wanting to know what really stood out and or are there any questions about TCI and what I can show you? What has stood out to you so far? Yeah, the supplemental materials are so great. Changing the reading levels. That is a biggie, isn't it?
The songs, they really like the songs and the biographies, the videos, the reading tools, the translations. Really a lot of great stuff.
Such great supplemental materials. So I'm going to share a couple more things with you. I already told you that show you what you know is you're often going to be able to tell so much about what your kids have learned. But if you are creating assessments, they are so easy to create. You will always have the original TCI assessment. However, if you want to, you can make a copy of it and you can modify it. So you could bring in examples from your own town. You can, instead of four answers in a multiple choice, you can make it three answers to make it a little easier for your struggling students. You could add images. You can do anything you want by making a copy and adjusting the assessment a little bit. So that is the main assessment. But another trick that TCI has in its pocket, uh, the lesson games. The lesson games are so good. Every single lesson is going to have at least one lesson game based on content. Many of them also have a lesson game based on vocab. We're going to take a look at the content lesson game right now. Um, there are a couple different versions of it, but they all have different questions. and students have up to two opportunities to answer it. So notice that this is kind of like Jeopardy. There are the different categories, and in this case, they're all worth 1 point. So cold weather kills many apple trees, but many customers still want to buy apples. How would you describe this situation? Oh, I'm pretty sure that's high supply and low demand. Oh, I can't believe I got it wrong. How about low supply, pardon me, how about low supply and high demand? So I got it right on the second try. I get half a point. If you get it, if anyone gets it wrong the second time, they lose the point altogether. So how can you use this? You can use this in a couple different ways. If you want to show growth, you could assign this right up here. Just look for the calendar. You can assign this virtually as a pretest and see what do the kids already know about this content. Record the scores, restart it right here. And when you're done teaching the lesson, have them take it again. And then it's not only review, it's also formative assessment and shows the growth. You can, if you assign this, you can go into grades. And aside from seeing individual students, you can also see trends. So you can see, oh, this question is really important. It's a huge part of our standards. 85% of the class got it. We're pretty good. But oh, look at this lesson or this question that's really important. Only 40% of the kids got that right on the first try. I'm going to reteach this because they really need to understand this. So lots of ways that you can use this. One other way that I've used it is sometimes rather than assigning it, I will pull it up on my teacher subscription and display it. I'll divide the class into two teams and have them compete against each other. And by doing that, they are reviewing the information and hearing the answers from each other. I'm curious, any other ways that any of you have used the lesson game in the past? They do love teams. Yeah. Yeah, it's great review and formative assessment. So again, regardless of your grade level, every single lesson is going to have a lesson game that you can use as you choose to use it. What other questions do you have, or what else have you found in your teacher subscription that I haven't mentioned and that you think that everyone else should hear about?
Feel free to type in, your thoughts and questions in the chat.
So I'm seeing Latoya say that the school didn't purchase student accounts, and that often happens, especially in younger grades. So remember, I'm doing this from my teacher account. So even though you can't assign it, you can absolutely bring it up and have the kids compete in teams like we talked about. Oh yeah, the glossary is so good. That's under the reference as well. What does the accessibility mode do? Margaret, where are you seeing that? Ron, are you familiar with the accessibility mode?
No, I don't know exactly what she's referring to. Next to restart on
Oh,
the
right
screen.
here. I am so
Oh,
sorry.
oh, okay. There you go.
There you go.
Thank you. It was right in front of our faces.
Yeah, it's just showing the different questions. It's just showing the different questions. So if you wanted to print them out, you could do it that way as well. Sorry about that. I did see a question on here. Would it be better to get student accounts or just use one teacher account? That really depends on so many things. At the lower grades, K1, to be honest, I didn't use student accounts at all. I did everything together and or print them out. Second grade, I really mostly used my teacher account, but I want them to start doing some things independently. So I would kind of dabble and maybe in the springtime use a little bit of the student subscriptions. And then third, fourth, and fifth grade, it just depended. That's part of the beauty of this. I think of it as a cookbook. I think I heard that from Deanna one time. It is going to walk you through everything you need to do and say, but TCI, again, built by teachers for teachers, we want to give you the flexibility and the freedom. So even at fifth grade, there may be things that you don't assign, you want to do them whole class, or you may assign a virtual interactive student notebook for the processing or the show what you know, but everything else you want to do it old school and have them write on the paper and pencil. I don't know about you, Ron, but I'm seeing that more and more across the country. Like the technology is a wonderful tool, but it's almost been overused. And I see so many teachers and districts who are wanting to go back more to paper pencil. And you have
Absolutely. I totally
absolute
agree. Yeah,
flexibility.
the pendulum is swinging in the opposite direction right now.
Yeah. Although
Yes.
I will say the tools that are embedded with the virtual textbook, man, you just can't beat those. But you can bring them up on your teacher account.
Absolutely.
Any tips for visibility? Oh, uh,
Just
so
we are running out of time. Just wanted to point that out that
thank you so much. All right.
the um the session is scheduled to end at 1:10, so I think we're right about
We are
at it.
probably about there. I
Yes.
do want to point out quickly all the different supports that were mentioned earlier, and remember to add what you've learned to Instagram and or Facebook. I have really enjoyed the time with you. Thank you so much. And Ron, thanks for your assistance today.
Absolutely, everybody. Thank you so much for attending, and we look forward to seeing you the next session.